Hey everyone, welcome to today's webinar. My name is Joe with SignTracker, and today in this webinar we're going to do a complete overview of the system. Now I am assuming that you've already signed up for your free trial or you're already a paying customer. So I will skip going through the setup employees and set up your company. Those are some things that you can do and watch some training videos which you can access through your dashboard or our marketing website, sign-tracker.com. So anyway, let's get started. I'm happy to be with you today. So first, SignTracker has a dashboard, calendar, contacts, jobs. This is where you'll manage all your jobs, and then some reports. On your dashboard, you can join weekly webinars. Some weeks we do more than one. Today we're just doing the Getting Started webinar with an overview of the whole system. Occasionally we'll do webinars on quoting only or just job flow only. But today's webinar is an overview of everything. So, but again, you can access current webinars here. There's also recorded webinars you can access. Like this webinar will be the most recent one that I'm recording now, and so we will actually post that later today. And then again, training videos. Also from the dashboard, you can create new people in the contact section, new companies in the contact section. You can create calendar events and new jobs. Some folks really like using the dashboard to access all those things. When I was running my sign shop, I actually used this jobs tab to do most of that, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. Other things you'll see on the dashboard is this chart here. This kind of gives you an overview of where all your jobs are. And so, for example, you can look and see, well, hey, I have 5 jobs that are already currently past due in pre-production. What's going on? Why can't we move these jobs into production? Well, I have 5 jobs in production that are also past due. So what's clogging up the system? So this gives you sort of a good picture of where your jobs are at and where they're getting stuck. And that's helpful because that's where you can make decisions on, should I throw a few more resources into production, or should I throw a few more resources at the install team? Or maybe you might consider outsourcing a percentage of your work so that you don't have jobs that are running behind. Or maybe you might think about giving a few key guys some overtime work or a split shift. So there's a lot of things that you can look at when you see that jobs are running behind or whatever. So that's the idea with that. Also on the dashboard here, you can access any job that you're associated with. So you have all those jobs here. And then if you have any events, like any calendar events, they're going to show up here. And so you can access those from here. So that's the dashboard. Next, we'll move on to the calendar. And the calendar view, again, some folks really like to manage their day and their job schedule from a calendar view. Same with their tasks. You can also manage all this information under the Jobs tab. I'm a big fan of that tab if you haven't already noticed. But here you're going to have all the jobs that you're associated with, and you can look at jobs all the jobs in the system, or just the ones that you're associated with. You can also create, like every person in the shop can have their own calendar. So you can create things like sales meetings, and these work just like regular calendar events. So you can invite people to the meetings. They will be sent email reminders. So as long as they're set up as either a team member, one of your folks there at the shop, and they have an email associated to their name so they can be invited to the event, and then it'll email remind them, or even people, a client or a vendor, if you have an event that you want to go over a job or whatever, you can set up a calendar invite, and it will email them a reminder. The other thing is, if your tasks will be, and we'll talk more about tasks when we get to the job flow, your tasks will be on the calendar as well. These are the due dates. If a task needs to move, I can move a task. And these are the tasks that are associated. I can look at just tasks that are mine, that are associated to me, or I can look at every task in the system that are unassigned. So if you don't want to see everybody's tasks, you can unclick that. But anyway, you can change due date. So if I drag and drop and change a due date of a task here, it's going to change it all the way through the system on the job flow board, on the task management section. So and then the same with jobs. So you can have all your jobs here, and if it's a service job, it's going to show up in a different color. If it's and you can change these colors. But if it's a regular job, a production job, it's going to just be this color. And again, I can change due dates here, and just by dragging and dropping, and it's going to automatically do that on the job flow board, as well as the job due date within the job itself. If I click this, I can also go straight to the job if I wanted to. And the same with tasks as well. I can go straight to the job task. So, and then the calendar does have a week view and a day view, and you can print the calendar and you can edit the categories, and those are all pretty self-explanatory. Oh, one thing I didn't point out on the dashboard, by the way, this little chat icon down here. This is really great. This goes to the entire team here at SignTracker. So if you can search like, hey, quoting, or like, for example, a QuickBooks integration. So if you want to do QuickBooks integration, excuse my typing, I can click here, QuickBooks, and search. And then it's going to pull up some articles and some videos and those sorts of things. You can also just send us a direct message. So this is great if you guys are having any struggles with the app, whether it's through setup or just have a quick question. Please feel free to use this and hit it up. It goes to everybody on the team, and we try really hard to be responsive with that. Also, we welcome suggestions. So if you're new to SignTracker, you're going through the setup process, for example, and you are snagged up on something, we really want to hear from you on that, because the more we can hear from you on things that you're getting caught up on, or suggestions you might have, it really helps us prioritize and direct development. And we want to hear from you. We want to know what's going on in your shop, and we want to know how we can help solve any problems that you're having. Anyway, okay, so back to the app. Contacts. So if you are syncing with QuickBooks, and we sync with QuickBooks desktop version and online version. So if you are syncing with QuickBooks, we recommend that you do that probably more sooner than later, because it will bring all your contacts over from QuickBooks. And then once they're all imported, at that point, when you're setting up new jobs and adding new people in SignTracker, it will keep that synced with QuickBooks. So in that whole process, again, you're gonna find that under the admin section. I won't go into the QuickBooks integration setup today. Again, if you go down here to this little chat icon, there's some videos you can watch on QuickBooks integration. But it's not that difficult. And if you get hung up on anything, we're here to help. And it'll bring over, when you do integrate with QuickBooks, it'll bring over all your contacts and your sales categories and your taxes and all that stuff. So again, watch those videos, and then I'll kind of show you a little bit about where SignTracker syncs once you actually mark quotes as sold in jobs. But so with contacts, there's a couple things. First of all, in SignTracker, there are companies and then there are people. So the reason why we set it up this way, so let's say, for example, I'm going to pull up one of my demo companies here, this Allison Design. So I know, for example, I've done a ton of projects with this company, but there's 4 different people at this company that I work with. So now I know, okay, well, Bob just called, and I'm going to have, he needed some information about an older project we did together. So I can go under his name, and even though the company might have 25, 30 jobs, I can see the ones that were specific to him. And also you can do universal searches in the system as well to find jobs and to find contacts. So that's an easier way to do it. But anyway, that's the reason why we set this up this way, though, primarily because most sign shops tend to have companies that, whether it's an architectural firm or a property management company or design, an advertising firm, design firm, whatever, you'll generally have several contacts at that company that you work with, and you want to kind of keep track of which job you did with which person. So now that brings us to the Jobs tab. And I will say that when I was running my sign shop, and I've had a couple sign shops over the years. I ran one for about 11 years. We had 60 employees and a 60,000 square foot manufacturing plant, crane trucks, and channel letter bending machines, and 2 routers and 2 paint booths. I mean, it was a pretty big operation. And it was, I sold that business about 10 years ago, and then went to work for another sign shop after a few years, just selling signs. And then after a few years of doing that, I decided again, a glutton for punishment, go ahead and start another sign shop, which I ran for 5 years. And then my family, my daughter and my son-in-law took that over, and they're doing very well, so I'm excited for them. SignTracker was really growing, so it was time to just really focus full-time on this. So I'm, again, happy to be here with you guys. But when I used SignTracker on a daily basis, the first thing I did when I got to the office in the morning was I opened up this job list. So it opened up the tab, and this is almost like a work in progress view. I liked it because it was just super simple, easy access to all the jobs I had to work on. It has a great search feature. So if I knew, for example, I was going to work on, let's say, Alexa's shop, and this was a project, it was a banner or whatever it might be, I was going to work on it and I needed to enter some notes or attach some files or do some quotes or whatever, I could easily get to this job. And then I'm on a Mac, so if I hit the Command key, I think it's a Control key if you're on a PC, but if I hit the Command key, it's going to open up a new tab in my browser. And so then I can do work on this project. And we'll come back to this in a few minutes, but in any case, I'll close this for now. So that's the job list view. Another view of the jobs is the job flow board, which I loved the job flow board for production meetings. We have sign shops right now that they just live and die by the job flow board, and they have a big screen in their shop on the side of the wall. They can see all their jobs, and so let's take a few minutes to talk about the job flow board, and then we'll actually create a new job in the system, and then we'll go through doing a quote, and then getting it on the job flow board and all that. So the job flow board, and when I had my first shop, we had a big dry erase board with these columns, and I've added several more columns to my job flow board just as I've been teaching people how to use it. But for us, we had an open bid, pre-production, production, install, delivery, service, and closeout. And so the columns kind of represent stages of production, right? So for us, anybody that called the shop and wanted a quote, we considered it, we called it a job, which is just semantics, but it's really, an opportunity or an open bid, and you can change the names of these columns if they don't suit you. That's under setup, again, under settings, and you'll see it in there to change the job flow columns. But for us, anytime someone called, it would set up a new job and then would give them the quote. And maybe you're in a shop that does a lot of smaller jobs and you're thinking, oh man, I don't want to set up a quote. And I'll show you a quick shortcut to that in a second. But if you feel like, oh, I don't want to set up a whole complete job every single time someone calls in. But for us, we always had to do things to a job before it was ready for design or ready for quotes, whether it was just gathering information or keeping track of a few emails or whatever it is we had to do. So for us, it was just easier to set that up that way. So in the open bid column, it was pretty much anything you did to a job before a customer signed off on it. And so, and it would generally would not have a due date in this column. So I know this little fake job has a due date. So it would probably look more like this gray one. They called in, they wanted a banner, and we just captured the basic information, and now it's sitting in this open bid. So what do we do to get a quote? So maybe your shop, just has a set list of pricing for 4x8 banners, 5x10 banners, Coroplast signs, whatever. That's great. You can give the customer a quick quote over the phone verbally, and if he says or he or she says, hey, that sounds great, well then at that point you can create this. It's fine. But anything that's outside of some standard little cookie cutter sign, you probably do want to at least have a place where you can do an official quote, set up a few tasks, attach the client's artwork, logos, or whatever. So that's what these are. I like to call these job cards. and these are stages of production. So for us, anything you did in a job that was pre-production would stay here, and so you would do what you had to do, whether it was design work or whatever. Now I set these columns up ready for design and ready for quote because a customer wanted to adjust his columns, and so I thought it was, I'd show him how to do it. So that's why I ended up with those. But for me, I would say, okay, now this customer called and said, hey, look, I want this banner. Great. So I'm going to take it. I'm going to assign a due date at this point. Well, look, we're running about a week out, so I'm just going to put it there. I'm going to save it. There's the due date. And now I'm going to move it into pre-production. And so in pre-production, it's pretty much anything that you do to a job before you actually start making it. And then once it's ready to go into production, then you can move it into production. So some of the things obviously might be getting final artwork from the customer. If you do bigger projects, or even banners for that matter, sometimes you have to pull permits with your city, or if it's a 4x8 real estate sign, sometimes you have to pull permits for that sort of thing. So you can basically anything that you're doing to a job before you start making it lives here. And then you can put this job on hold too. So I can say, hey, maybe this job is pending permit. So put it on hold. It's going to put this big red border around it. And then when it's ready for the next stage, I can mark it ready for next stage. And so next time you're having a production meeting, you can take this job and you know that it's ready for the next stage and move it into production. And then from production, obviously, that's anything you do to a job that gets it done. So it depends on what kind of sign shop you are. Subcontract, so I again added this column because our sign shop, my second sign shop, we actually outsourced everything. So everything was subcontract. But some sign shops obviously outsource, most sign shops I think these days outsource a percentage of their work. So you can have a column for production, meaning in-house, and you could even change the name of this to in-house and then subcontract. So if it was being subbed out, you can move it here. Once it was ready to deliver to the customer, if the customer was going to pick it up or however that arrangement was going to be, it would be in that column. And then closeout ultimately would be, the goal with closeout is, the job's completed on time, the customer's super happy, and all you're waiting for is the final balance. So in our shop, when we had production meetings, and I'll talk about production meetings in a second, but when we had production meetings, only the bookkeeper would be allowed to come in here, and generally she would put it on hold and say final invoice sent on 8/17, mark it as okay, and it would sit here until the final bill was paid. So the idea here is, all the tasks are completed. Ignore my 000. Again, this is my demo account. If this was, if you were really managing jobs, hopefully you'd have 15 or 20 tasks in here and you'd show them all completed, maybe with the exception of just collecting the final balance. But once this job was 100% completed, then at that point it would be moved into archived. And for us, our bookkeeper was the only one that was allowed to move a closed out job into archived, because then you would know, then you'd know the final balance was completed. And if all of a sudden you had the final task, so let's say you had a net 30. I know you can find this information in QuickBooks as well, but it's nice to have a visual here on the job flow board. But if a client was past due and paying, and this had been sitting in this column for more than a month, well then you could, it'll kind of alert you to make some phone calls and figure out what's going on. So the other thing about the job flow board too is managing resources. For example, let's say this Joe's Pizza. This guy is, amazing. He never, bickers about pricing. He really respects your work. He hires you to do design stuff, whatever. And he's just a high priority customer, an A customer. You can move him to the top of production. Or let's say this is, another banner job, or whatever. Let's say this was a job that had to be done on the flatbed printer, and the flatbed was, it was open for a couple of hours, and this is a small job. So, and this job's a flatbed job, but it's going to take up half a day's worth of printing. You say, well, hey, let's slide this up here. Let's get this one knocked out first, and we can bill the customer and be done with it. and then we'll let this this job tie up the printer the rest of the afternoon. So the idea with the job flow board, it's all about prioritizing by client status, I guess, if you want to say. Not that, maybe all clients are created equal at your shop, maybe they're not. Maybe you have a first in, first out policy and you never waver from it. That's great. But it's also resources too, right? Obviously, if you have, if you're limited and you have, one printer and 20 jobs backed up, it might be a good idea to try to knock out a few small ones, get that billed out for cash flow, and then tie up the printer for a half a day or full day on some bigger projects. So, but that's the idea of the job flow board, is for you to prioritize what's going on with your customers in your shop. So before we are finished with the job flow board, couple things I wanted to talk about. We had production meetings, and that's where we went through every single job. And for us, we did it Monday afternoon. This just worked well for us. I did it at my big shop and my small shop. Monday afternoons, we would have a production meeting, and we would literally go through, notebooks in hands, writing notes, whatever. We'd go through each one of these jobs, and we would just basically see what was going on. Was it, why was it running behind, or were materials in? Have we been communicating with the customers, or have permits been picked up? Whatever the situation was. So when we talked about every single job, and then also prioritized them. That was a good place where we prioritized them. That would give us all of Monday morning to do all the Monday morning stuff, and you guys know what that is. Just the craziness of Monday morning. But after lunch on Monday, it would give us, whether the meeting took 2 hours or 3 hours, would wrap it up mid-afternoon, and then would give us the last hour or so of the day, to put out any emails or follow up on anything that we needed to follow up on. It gave us all day Tuesday, all day Wednesday to get jobs done. And it's not that we didn't communicate about jobs in between. We did, but the big meeting was on Monday. Then Thursday mornings, we would have what we call the stand-up meeting. And basically, we would just kind of, would basically go through the jobs pretty quickly. We wouldn't necessarily go through every detail, but again, if anything was problematic, we'd talk about it on Thursday mornings, and then we'd wrap up, within an hour, hour and a half. That would give us the rest of Thursday and all day Friday to finish out the week. So some shops I talk to, they have production meetings every day. That's great. If you guys have that worked out and you can use this job flow board as a resource to manage your meetings every day, I think that's great. If you're not having any production meetings, I would highly recommend you do. So, and the job flow board is a great way to do it. Lastly, on the job flow board, you can go to your job, you can view it, you can edit it, you can, again, mark it ready for next stage, you can delete it. If a job gets accidentally deleted, the owner of the account will get an email, and they can undelete the job. So don't feel like you're going to lose anything. Matter of fact, I always recommend, if you have 20 open bids and some of them are a few months old and you just don't think you're going to get the job, don't just delete them. I would just archive them, because you never know when that customer is going to call you back for something else, and maybe you had some documents in there as logo or whatever. Just archive them. They take up such little space. It's nothing that I would worry about as far as using up any storage. So anyway, so that's the job flow board. So now I'm going to go ahead and close out of this for now, and then we're going to go back to our job list. So again, if I was working on a project, I would just type in search. It would pull it up, because I tended to work on multiple projects every single day. So I always had to bounce from one to the next. The other thing here under the job tab is job tasks. So again, I'm going to hold my command key down. It's going to open up another tab. This is pretty much what my browser looked like all day, and my email. I'd go here, tasks. I'd go job list, tasks, email. Job list, tasks, email. It's pretty much how I spent my day. Tasks, if you're logged in as yourself, it's going to show all the tasks that are scheduled, anytime. Now, if this was my real sign shop and I had dozens of tasks that I had to get done on every single job, this would look a little sexier. But I can filter this by tasks that have any date, any time, whether it's in progress or not done. Any time is more just due dates. So whether it's past due or whatever. But if you're really using this and have all your tasks in the system, if you just pick today, it'll give you a really good list of everything that has to get done in the course of a day. And this goes for any of the guys in the shop or designers or whatever. So, or you can see all the tasks that have to be done this week, or you can see tasks that have to be done, next week. It can give you a good picture of what has to be done, or just any time. And then the same with status. So you can look at jobs that, are whether they're in progress or have any status whatsoever, and it's going to pull them all up. So you can see when they were completed. So this is great for if you're managing, several people, and then just yourself, of course, too, or if you're a sign shop owner. This will give you a really good picture of what everyone's working on. I mean, you can go to every employee and see what every single person's working on. It'll give you a list. You can see what's running behind. And so, anyway, again, I lived in this view and spent a lot of time back and forth. You can also print this page too. If you're one of those people that just likes to have your task list printed, you can print it, keep it next to you on a clipboard, kind of check things off as the course of the day. And at the end of the day, you can always come back and, hey, we're done. So anyway, let's go back to our list and let's start a new job. So a customer calls, they want a sign. We're going to make this super simple. We'll just, it'll make it a little banner job. So we're going to go in. It's a brand new job. We're going to call the job and we need a banner. And you can have, whatever naming system you guys have, it's going to obviously pull up this customer. If he's in the system, it's going to pull him up. So whatever naming system, if you want to just call it, banner, or if you like having the customer name in there as well, that's fine. As far as the job numbers go, it's sequential, so it's going to start off at 1001. If you have a numbering system in QuickBooks already and you you want to start from a different number, it's fine. Wherever you start from, it'll just remember the next number, and it won't let the system repeat either. So we'll say description 4x8 banner, and we're going to go, okay, now John the Greek is a brand new customer. So John's Greek Cafe is not here, so we're going to just go add new company. So now this is going to automatically add this contact to the contact section. If you're, if it's a small job, you don't have time to fill out all this information, like the billing address or where it's going to go, add its shipping address, that's okay. You can just leave all that blank for right now. You don't have to capture this information. What I always tell people is, look, capture the company name and who the contact is, and phone number, and email. If it's a product, you know that. Who the manager is, we're going to say Joe's managing it, and Joe's the rep. And if you have a due date, generally if someone's calling in, you don't quite know yet the due date. If you do, that's great. You can pop it in there now, and we'll say this customer is going to pick this up. So that's it. I mean, it literally takes 30 seconds. Set up a job, and now you have an electronic job folder. So this is pretty much where you do everything in the job. You can create tasks, you can write notes, you can attach files, you produce the quotes, generate contracts, and then there's sign templates and forms, which are sort of bonus resources to jobs. I'll show you how those work, but they are helpful. So let's talk about tasks first. And I already showed you the overall task list, but basically how the tasks end up on that master task list is they are from here. So in settings, you can basically create these task lists, and they can be really large task lists. Like if you have projects that have initial client meeting, let's say, I know this is a small banner one. My banner task list is only 4 items. So let's go large project, just so you can see the extent of this. But I go large project, And it's going to pull everything up from initial meeting with the client, going over the job, doing a site survey, checking power requirements. So obviously, let's say this is a channel editor job. Getting an install quote if needed, if you're subbing out the install. If you're doing it yourself, you don't need that. And you create these task lists, by the way, in settings. So let's say, for example, this one doesn't apply. We don't need an install quote because we do the install ourselves. You can delete it. It's not going to hurt the list that you created in the templates. So you can delete any of these tasks if they don't apply to the specific job. Anyway, follow up on bid. I mean, you can see how extensive this is, landlord approval, and you can make these, really long. I actually have several task lists in an Excel file. So if you guys send me an email or hit me up in chat and just give me your email address so that I can send it to you, I'm happy to do that. Also, in the tasks, you can add a new task too. So let's say, for example, on this particular job, I had a special order item. And I was going to order it from whoever your supplier is, right? Bob, the supply guy. So whoever you use for your supplies. So now it's going to drop that down the bottom. I have a note on it. I can drag and drop this anywhere I want in the order of tasks for this job. I can also put individual due dates on tasks. So here's the one we just created, but let's say we'll go back up to the top. So let's say this task has to be completed by Monday, August 3rd. We're going to have the meeting with the client, and we're going to assign this task to Joe. So now it's going to be on my calendar. It's going to be on my task list. It's going to send me an email reminder. And then I can also have a note too, like, hey, let's say, for example, you already left a message for this customer. I left a message on 8/17. They didn't answer, so you can write a little note about that, and then you can say, call back, whatever little codes you have. I'm going to call back on, whatever, 9/1, right? Just throwing out weird dates here, but so now I can move this date. I can move this to 9/1, and now I know. I already left a message once. I can say this is in progress, and I have a note. It's assigned to me. So again, it's on my calendar. It's in my job task list, and it'll send me an email. So that's how these basically work. So and again, you can set these task lists up, these templates. They can be super short ones with just 3 or 4 tasks, or they can be very extensive ones like this one I'm just showing you. Okay. So notes, pretty self-explanatory. I will say one thing. This will probably date me. Like I use Gmail, for example, and in Gmail there's threads, and you might have 20 emails in a thread. So what I did all day long is I would literally go into my email and say if a customer gave me a color approval or a size approval or anything, or there was a change to the job, I would notoriously be searching forever trying to find that darn email. So I would just go in and I would copy and paste the whole email, the header, the date, everything, and I'd paste it in here. And then I would title it, email for color approval. And so, but what's nice is too, it's going to have, it's going to have anybody that's logged into the system. They can make notes. So if multiple people are making notes, it's going to, timestamp it. It's going to say who made the note. And then, of course, you can always edit it and add to these notes too. And you can have unlimited notes. Now, attachments. You can just drag. You can drag and drop attachments here, or just click on that gray square, and it will navigate the attachment. So I can come here. I can open it up. Of course, that one's too big. Sorry about that. There is a size limitation right now, so. Sorry about that. Let me see. I'll pick another one. Anyway, you get the point. So you can upload attachments, and you could have multiple attachments. And once they're uploaded, too, you can also change the names of them. You can download them. You can view them. So I can change this name if I want to. And then if I want to just view it, it'll view it in your browser. So you can see it. This is a pretty big file, so it might take a little bit to load, but so you can see that. The other thing is if you do a lot of site surveys, what's great about this is if you have, you have to use a browser on your mobile, but if you're using like Chrome, which I use on my phone, I can open up SignTracker, go to this job. It actually shows up pretty well. You have to kind of, I always had to hold my phone horizontally, but I can come into this job and with my thumb click this after I've taken a bunch of pictures to do a survey, and then just, it'll take me to my camera. I can select all those photos, upload them, and it'll instantly put all those photos here. And then I'm an old school clipboard kind of a survey guy, so under forms you'll see there's a lot of different survey forms and all that kind of stuff, and I would just recommend going through those. You can open them up. They're all very sign industry specific. There's survey sheets for vehicle wraps and site surveys and elevation surveys and all kinds of work orders in there. Again, I would suggest that you go through those, but I would just print up, like if I was going to do a site survey on a facade for a sign being installed, I'd print the form up, I'd have it on a clipboard, I would go out, I would fill all the information out, I'd take my pictures, immediately upload it here, and then I would take a picture of my survey form that I filled out, and I'd upload that picture as well. And because I don't know about you, but somehow I would, it didn't happen often, but once in a while I would lose all my survey notes. So it just assured that I would never do that. So, okay, so let's talk about quotes. So like tasks, quoting is template driven. So under your setup, quoting setup, you'll see that you can import all your, and there's going to be another webinar where I just talk about this, but there's also videos you can watch too. You can upload all your materials. You can have formula pricing. A lot of sign shops use formula pricing. That banner's $5 a square foot, or channel letters are an upright inch, or whatever. And so your formula items, your labor items, and your material items all feed into these templates that you create. And you can create these templates for any product type. Like literally, this cores one, for example, like we have a customer that all they do is they do signs for beer distributors. And so he wanted to set up templates for all the different customers, Anheuser-Busch, whatever, Coors, and all the different brands. And then they had different types of signs that they distributed to those particular brands. And so that's how he set up his templates. So, but if you're a print shop and just do silk screening or T-shirts or whatever, you can set up templates for that, or for complicated projects like channel letter jobs. So it's just a matter of taking the time to build out those templates, and that's probably the most daunting part of setup of any application. Is going to be getting all your materials in there, getting some templates set up, and I always recommend to folks, don't try to do all that in a day. If you look at your start getting your projects into SignTracker, start tracking them on the job flow board, start tracking them on the calendar, and then if you're setting up, let's say you're setting up a job to quote a banner. Well, okay, if you have an extra 10 minutes, do the quote inside the quote setup, save that template, then come to the job and actually produce the real quote for the customer. And all of a sudden you have, might take you a couple weeks, but next thing you know, you're loaded up with different types of banner templates. If your shop is big enough and you're lucky enough to have an estimator, or if the owner does all the estimating, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because owners tend to just keep all the pricing in their head. So let's try to get it out of your head and into a template. But if there's one person that specifically does all the estimating, then again, I would just recommend, look, get going on SignTracker, using it for job flow, and then slowly but surely, get your materials entered in, get your formula pricing entered in, get your labor rates all set the way you want them, and then from there you can start slowly but surely building these templates out. And if you're the kind of person that just wants to sit down and bust it all out, that's great. Take a couple days, lock yourself in a room, get it done. Or if you want to, just do it slowly over time, next thing you know, like I said, you're going to, one day you're going to, start using SignTracker quoting, and you're going to realize, hey, I already have like 50 templates built. So that's great. But basically, just to show you how these templates work, I just open this up, the template would already be built out. So let's say, for example, this right here that I'm moving around, this is the item category, right? So it's the item category. And when you're setting these templates up, basically you choose, what do you want to show up in the drop-down menus? Do I want just materials to show up? Do I want labor rates to show up, formula to show up, or all three of them to show up? You can do that. It just depends. This right here, the reason why this is fractional, it's a setting, and I must have set my demo account up like this. But some shops do that, where they do such small things like business cards, or they quote things by the square inch, and they wanted they requested that we actually have a setting for fractional quoting. So that's why that looks like that. Normally it would just be $45. But anyway, so these item categories, and you'll find them in the master template. So and please watch a video on setting all this up. There's videos on our website, but the master template is where you'll set up these item categories, and you'll set up the markup that you want in those item categories. And so and this is when you're actually doing a quote inside of a job, you can change this around. I mean, you can make that higher when you're inside a job. You can delete a category if you're inside a job. It's not going to hurt the template. So again, I've already set this up. So let's say we needed to add a little bit of labor for design time, production time, and it was we did 2 hours. So we can add that. We can also, if you really wanted to, you can add a category too. I have this already set up in my template, but let's say sub install. Let's say you're going to, and you don't need anything to show up in the drop-down menu because you're going to just get a price from your installer. So I can say install. I get a price for $500, and I get a 50% markup. That's my default markup, so $750. So I can add this, and it's not going to hurt the template that you created. I can come in, I can add my sales tax. No, I'm sorry, this is commission and upcharges. I'm sorry. So if you have a sales rep, you can preset this up. Let's say, for example, though, if you don't have a sales rep, that's fine. You don't have to have those or set them up. But let's say you did. Let's say, for example, there's nothing in here. You wanted to add one. You could come in and say, hey, this job has a rush charge, and we're going to charge $100. So you have a $100 rush charge. You can do discounts if you do a nice guy discount or whatever. You can come in here. Let's say we're going to discount at 5%. All it's going to do is go up to these totals, and it's going to take 5% off evenly off all of them. Again, then you can add your tax. If you're syncing with QuickBooks, it's going to pull all that tax over. It's going to give you a quote name, which is going to be the name when you set up the templates. It's going to automatically give a quote number. Again, they're sequential too. And then lastly, these descriptions, when you're setting up your templates, you'll type them in, and you try to make those as detailed as possible. This will go on the contract. And then notes and details, the customer does not see this. So let's say you got an install quote from Star Signs, and you deal with Jane there, and you can put her phone number down if you want, or whatever you want to remember about this quote. Say if you come back to it, the customer calls you in a year from now, hey man, remember that banner I bought for you? I want to do the exact same deal at my new location. Fine, you just go there, you go find the job in the archives, you can clone it, you can clone the quotes. So it's kind of a nice feature. So we're going to save this. So now we have our summary of the quote, and so now we're going to generate a contract. So I'm going to go here. It's going to bring you to the contract page. You can type in a nice little note. Let's say you're installing this and you needed the front of the access to the inside of the store or whatever, or you just want to say thanks. Save it, and it's going to create a contract for you. So it's going to have the customer's picking it up. Again, if you get to the point where you're selling something or doing a contract, you probably do want to get the rest of the information, the address and the phone number and all that stuff, so it'll all show up here on the contract. And you can also itemize too. Like say for example, you have the kind of customers that they don't want to just see a brief description. They want to see full itemization, like every nut and bolt. So you can itemize that. Again, that's by hide or show itemization. This is my demo account, so I am not linked with QuickBooks. But if you were linked with QuickBooks, you would mark this as approved, and once it's marked as approved, it's going to give you an option to generate an invoice. And basically, it's going to take all this information from this invoice, from this quote rather, send it over to QuickBooks into that customer's history, and generate an invoice for you automatically. So it's not just a download and dump and journal entry like some of the other apps do. This is a straight create an invoice in QuickBooks. So it is definitely a true integration. So anyway, and then again, under these sign templates, if you've been around doing this for a while, you might have a lot of this stuff already. So some of it's just it's just a resource. So, but just to show you, they're all PDF templates. They're the text is all live text. So if they were all created in Adobe Illustrator. They're vectorized. They're saved as PDFs, but you can open them in whether you use Corel or Flexi or whatever. They're you can edit them, and so there's a lot of them in here. So and again, they're just kind of a bonus. Forms, the same thing. I would just take some time to go through all these forms and see how they can be useful to you, whether it's full work orders or survey sheets. There's project management tools if for getting landlord approval and all that stuff. So there's a lot of them in here. So I'd take some time to look at those. But so anyway, well, that is pretty much a wrap. There are some report tools you can look at. Again, there's more videos you can watch on that, but this is kind of a good overview of what SignTracker is and how you would use it on a daily basis. So I hope this was helpful to you guys. I appreciate you spending time with me, and I will see you on the next webinar. Have a great weekend. Bye.